Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to Wealth Wednesday. If you guys have been listening, you guys already know this is a weekly show where we're talking about everything that's going on in the world and, trending news, trending topics. But not only that, we also talk about things that go on in the Latino community, whether it's like, history lessons. We've done a whole episode about Roberto Clemente. And we're going to continue to do episodes like that in the future. But, it's a weekly segment that we put out by Latinos for our community. So, again, we talk about a variety of topics from business entrepreneurship to stories and things that are actually going on in the Latino community. So, appreciate you guys tapping in. I know there's been a whole lot of new followers on Instagram that came through, a couple new YouTube subscribers. So, first episode of the year. We're really excited for 2024 and excited for what this year has to bring. And look, we're going to continue to grow this platform and very, very excited for the opportunities that are coming. Before we jump into today's topics, Jeremiah, how you feeling today, bro?
I'm feeling great, bro. Super appreciative for being in the new year. Appreciate all the new subscribers. Appreciate all the great guests that we had last year. The plethora of interviews that came out. We appreciate you guys. We're looking to do bigger and better things this year. So excited to get it going.
Yeah, bigger and better things is definitely what we're striving for. And we figured on this first episode of 2024, we just want to jump into a couple personal goals that we have, whether it's for ourselves or for the platform. I think it'd be dope to document, our goals, and at the end of the year, see how far we come or how far we actually went. In addition to that, you guys can hold us accountable. You know what I'm saying? The listeners out there can listen to this episode and can check in with us and see, how things are going. So, let's jump into it. So for me, I pretty much have two goals for this platform. I have a whole list, but I want to hone in on this. I want to hone in on two, right? So number one, I really want to hone in on YouTube and creating more content for YouTube. So it's funny because Jeremiah and I were just talking before we hit record, and we want to start talking about more stories in the Latino community and shining more light on different things a little outside of business and entrepreneurship. I think it would be dope to have, maybe a weekly video that comes out highlighting something in our community, right? And continuing to elevate the quality of the YouTube content is what I would say. So essentially what I would love is when you go to our YouTube channel, I want you to see like a catalog of information you can consume and you could apply to your life, but also like, go here for history lessons, go here to learn about this and that, and learn about like different conflicts and challenges that are going on in Latin America is what I think we would love to do. At the end of the day, we are transitioning from just a podcast to a media company, right? And I think, that goal fits right in line with what we're trying to do. So for me, honing in on YouTube is going to be big in 2024. And then the second thing is figure out more ways to give back to our people, give back to our Latino community, whether it's I don't know, free course of something. I don't know, an in-person event, maybe going to different schools, Jeremiah and I, and like talking to the kids about entrepreneurship, just give back in some type of way. I feel like I naturally am a giver, and I don't think I did as much of that in 2023. So I want to get back to that in 2024, giving as much back as possible. So for me, those are my two goals, for the platform. Jeremiah, talk to us, bro. How you feeling? What are your thoughts?
So my first one is aligned with the growth of Latin Wealth, right? And Wealth Wednesday, and I said as a media conglomerate. I'll go ahead and speak that into existence. But It's basically taking the information and those history segments and the things like that, and then doing my due diligence to make sure that as we present it, if it's you or if it's me, however we're presenting it, that it's factual, and then that we can align it to things that are relatable for you in your everyday life. Like basically, there's stuff going on in Puerto Rico, but we can take it back to the Jones Act that was signed in 1901, and this is the reason why economic hardships are still in place now, like things like that, and we could just tie it. So I'm going to be doing my work in the background to make sure that it's factually linked, and we can base everything, and that you can take that information and implement it. That's my one thing, just making sure that everything that we always do that is factually sound. You guys know I'm big on due diligence, so that I want to do that, and I'm going to do more of that in 2024. Working with Chris, we're going to do that. And then what's funny is the second part is actually they both kind of tie in, and that was, and you said it for me actually, and it's getting out there. And what I mean by that is us in person, doing seminars, speaking to the kids. It's us teaching entrepreneurial workshops, right? And just giving our information and the gems that we have back to the community. I want to make people, and I want to, work to have people understand that you don't have to be just in strictly entertainment or sports in order to be masterful and live well, right? There's other avenues, there's other things that we can do, and maybe college isn't the way for you, but there are multiple classes and multiple ways and actual paths getting to where you want to go to. So getting that information out, me and Chris working together and coming and presenting that information, that was my second one. So,
I love that, because we can do a whole other podcast about like how we grew up, and like we thought the only way out was hooping, or rapping or whatever. There's only a couple options, but as you grow, as you educate yourself, as you surround yourself with people that are independent thinkers, there's a million ways to get out. And unfortunately, people that look like us, young kids that look like us, they don't always know that. So we just want to do our part. At the end of the day, we want to do our part with everything that we're doing here. So if you guys are looking to collaborate or have some ideas, please run them by us. I know recently I've been getting some DMs about like folks in DR. They're like, yo, I'm an investor out here. If you need anything, please let me know. And I'm like, okay, starting to cultivate a community of people that we can reach out, do business with, or, just do different things with is the goal of this platform.
Yep.
Absolutely. Cool. So what we're going to jump into it today. We got some dope topics. Both these topics are directly relating to our people in our Latino community. And so off the top, Latin America's biggest investors are moving their wealth to Miami at a faster rate than ever. All right. And in recent time, wealthy Latin American investors have been rapidly transferring their assets to Miami, really marking it as one of the biggest wealth migrations in recent history. And this movement is primarily driven by regional instability and the appeal of higher returns in Miami compared to their home country. So some of these countries that these wealthy individuals are coming from, politically and the economy is not the most stable situation to be putting their assets in. Essentially, they're moving their money from their home country into America, specifically in Miami. And so before we jump into it, a couple talking points. Major banking institutions like JP Morgan and Chase and leading Brazilian banks are witnessing substantial growth in their asset management and client base due to this trend. So again, Chase, seen a huge uprise. They manage about $180 billion from Latin America, which was pretty crazy to see. And their Miami team is focusing on clients from countries like Argentina, Chile, and Peru. All right. So they even expanded that team over there by 10% to 70 people in that department that are focusing solely on Latin American clients and trying to bring them to Miami. So very interesting stuff, man. Very, very interesting. What are your thoughts, Jeremiah?
So the basis and how we tie this, it's always good whenever you see a predominantly Latino Latin-based, right, city, grow and attract more of our own people here, creating new businesses, creating a new melting pot, right, new areas. I lived in Florida for about 6 years. It's about a chance to always to be in Miami and actually live it and see it. And this is during the years of LeBron and all that. It was like some of the crazy times ever. But it was really awesome because you start to see Miami grow, and it was already cultivated. Now, most people would obviously know Miami, you know, I was watching something, and it was saying Miami was basically back in the 80s or whatever like that. But it's grown now to be an actual place where you can, take your family. It's grown. There's businesses. There's a lot of different diversity of things that's going on. And I think that this new push, this new wave of people coming in is not only due to the instability and where they're coming from, but it's also due to, well, let's be honest, in most European and Latin-based countries, soccer is a big thing, right? You got Messi that just came there. David Beckham owns the team. And then you got Messi that actually was signed by David Beckham. It's like one of the craziest things ever. And you're like, that's not really it. But in the culture of Latin culture, that's huge because Messi brings billions of dollars with him, right? It's advertisement, it's the restaurants, it's opportunities of endorsements and all these things that are coming along with it. So as the economy of Miami boosts, you could go and come in and invest and get your piece of that. And so I think that the newly renovated and thought process of Miami is to become a mecca, essentially, for Latin American wealth, right, in this region. So in the Western Hemisphere. So if you think Latin wealth, you think Miami, right? And I think that's what they're pushing to do. And I mean, in the next few years, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think you're going to start to see more people leave their countries, obviously come there. And then I think you're going to start to see a lot more people leave the United States, leave their cities, like people from New York, will come more to Miami, right? From Philly, from other areas, from California.
100%. And I love that you broke that down because from looking from the outside and, doing the research that we do, I mean, Miami they're doing a lot of great things. I'm sure they have their flaws and whatnot, but like you said, you got the weather, you got the culture of Miami, it's the melting pot. And I can definitely see, I've even heard what different big entrepreneurs, moving from LA to Miami, not only for the tax purposes, but just the overall culture and the vibe that the city offers. And on top of that, they're just trying to become a hub for, financing, like you said, and also crypto as well, which is big as well out there. So it's very interesting what's going on over there. Very, very appealing I can see why anybody would want to move to Miami,
I mean, to be honest, I was having a conversation and you were like, bro, where would you move? Would you come back to Texas? And I'm like, nah, not really. I'm good on Texas, but Texas, but I'm good on it. But Florida's always been a great place. I love the weather. It reminds me of Puerto Rico, right? Scenery and the climate is very similar. So I always love Florida, and I can see how it has that draw, like you said, just the overall draw, pulling people in. And I like that the banks that are associated with the demographics that are coming in are beefing up people in those areas to help speak their language. There is a very large population of Brazilians in southern Florida. And so what you see is now you're pulling more of those people and they're hiring more people that I speak your language. I understand your struggle or where you're coming from. I know how to link your investments to what you want and what your financial goals are. And I think that's key. And I think that that's very powerful for Miami, that, it's a place where they're seeking to cultivate the Latin experience and seeking to cultivate the Latin lifestyle. I think that's very big. That's powerful.
What's crazy, bro? Fun fact, out of all the places I've traveled to, I've actually never traveled to Miami.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I mean, it is living there was an experience. Just going and visiting is an experience. Beautiful
For
water,
sure.
and people will be like, oh, what did they tell me? Like out here, I live in California, so they'll say, hey, I'm going to the beach, and I'm like, that's not a beach, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, bro, that is not a beach, and they're like, what do you mean? And you show them. Like you can show them Florida water, Miami, you can see to the bottom of the water. They're like, it's like that's a beach, and
Yeah. No. I grew up in California. I've never seen the bottom of anything in those waters.
and it's cold.
Yeah, cold as heck, bro. So let me ask you this real quick. My last question about this segment. So, JP Morgan got their Miami team and they're focusing on clients from countries like Argentina, Chile, and Peru. And pretty much they're getting they're getting clients from those countries. They're wealthy, they have money, they have a large amount of asset, and they're bringing them to Miami. How does that affect these different countries' economy when you're taking, some of their multimillionaires, maybe even billionaires from their countries and managing their assets in America? Does that affect these other countries in any way? Is there some type of trade? There's obviously got to be a trade-off at some point.
Yeah, so what ends up happening, I'm pretty sure, in the process of residency, and how you exchange that money, because there's rules and laws, right, against how you invest that money. You have to be in a place for a certain amount of time, right? Because you have to have identification and things that link to you being able to access to put money into the American system. And so the trade-off is usually the exchange rate. And then there's also background agreements and things that are made with banks or something where you have to leave a certain amount there with them. But yeah, it greatly affects those countries, because imagine if you're taking the cream of the crop from a country and then you bring it to America. Well, that country now has less cream, right? And so it's very important that not only do the people come here and come to Miami and they learn and they invest and they build this wealth and they build the lifestyle that they want, but I also challenge people to invest back into your country, because that's where you came from. So if it's a business, or even if it's some type of something that invests back into your country, because people that are still living there. Now, if you're talking about like Florida has a very large population of Venezuelans as well. Venezuela, probably you're not able to do that just because of the way the country is set up and things like that. But Argentina, Peru, Brazil, Chile, all of these countries, you're able to go back and invest and put money back into the country while you're making it here, but invest back into the country. So that's what I would say they should do, because it definitely affects the economies of these countries that don't have a plethora.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. They don't have a plethora.
I was going to say they don't have a huge amount of billionaires in these countries to be taking them. That's going to affect like GDP. That affects businesses, jobs, all these things inside of these countries.
So you said exchange rates. Well, what do you mean by that?
So let's say $1. We talked about this. $1 equals. We're talking about with the Dominican peso. So $1 to whatever a peso, Argentinian peso, or whatever the rupee, or whatever that currency is. The change or the exchange between those two, a portion of that can be fractioned off, right, to stay within the country.
Gotcha.
Versus right. So just the way money moves, essentially, and the banks can come to an agreement and they can,
So I'm saying, like, if they're moving large amounts of money like that, they'll at least benefit from the fee of whatever amount of money is moving over, or the asset. Gotcha.
Yeah. So in order for the bank here in America to gain that access, right, the bank back in Brazil or wherever they're at, they're going to have an exchange rate and they'll have a fee associated with exchanging that money. And so they still retain some fees. Let's say you're moving I wouldn't say you move $1 billion out of a bank, but you're moving assets that are worth $1 billion, right? Or high multiple 9 figures. There is going to be a retention of multiple millions of dollars that stay in that country.
100%. Love that. Dope. So yeah, we're gonna keep an eye on this situation as always, and we love to keep an eye on these stories, see what's going on, and then come back and revisit it, give you guys updates on these scenarios and whatnot. So moving along,
we need to do a Miami version. We need to do a Miami version. We need to go to Miami, walk around, and we need to interview people in Miami. Go to New York.
And no, not even okay. So I'll say this. one of the, and this is, I'm getting off a little off track here, but I brought up the whole YouTube thing, creating high quality content. One of the things I want to make happen in 2024 is like more documentation. So going into these countries, these cities, wherever we're at, and like getting unbiased information from locals, and giving unbiased information to people out there so they can make a decision or whatever. They can form their own opinion from the information we give them. So to your point, absolutely going to Miami and, sit down with different business owners or locals and whatnot and understanding what's going on out there, and see, the pros and cons, see it all,
Yeah. I love it.
Moving along, a Latino group has launched some billboards in California to call attention to Latino media and investment disparities. All right, so this was actually pretty interesting and actually very creative. A nonprofit group called Aquí launched mobile billboards Thursday. Well, it was last Thursday in San Francisco and Los Angeles as part of the Show Me the Receipt campaign. And really, this is to draw attention to the disparities between Latino economic contribution and how the community is being represented in turn. So we'll probably we'll post pictures in this podcast, but definitely go look it up what these billboards look like, because they're not the typical billboards. They're actually pretty creative. And really, this group is vowing to hold people accountable that have promised to keep investing in our people and representing the Hispanic community. And pretty much the billboards call attention to continued disparities in capital and investment in Latino startup. So one of the billboards, it displays an image of a store receipt highlighting the economic output of Latino consumers, which is about $3.4 trillion with trillion. $3.4 trillion with a T versus the amount invested in Latino startups, which is 1.3 billion with a B. So we're looking at the output of Latino consumers, 3.4 trillion, which is there's got to be some type of graph back there that scales how much $1 trillion is, but it's an absurd amount of money compared to how much they're investing in our people, which is only $1.3 billion. And I say 1.3 billion compared to, the trillion, it's pretty crazy. And it also, before I'll let Jeremiah get on here, studies recently released last year saying that Latinos' economic output would rank 5th in the world if we were our own country. So the output that we put, if we were to collectively come together, be our own country, whatever Latino country, we would be the 5th in the world, which is insane. A lot of information, but definitely go check these billboards out. Very, very interesting what this group did. And again, they're bringing attention to the disparity in investments in capital.
You put out $3.4 trillion, and then what's invested into Latin-based businesses, Latin-based startups, angel investments, capital investments, right, is essentially 3,400% less than what you output. Just to make that relative, right? I mean, imagine that your check every 2 weeks was $3,400. Paying you for 80 hours of work. Imagine your company paying you $1.
Yeah,
right.
But that's it.
So if you're really just sitting and thinking about it, I need you to really here we're putting out the work, we're putting out the effort, right? There were promises, and and there were things made, obligations that were made, which force us to continue working, because one thing about Latinos, we've never had a problem working, right? Since you've come to this country, we've never had a problem working. The result, or learning how to cultivate that work and grow wealth and be able to create generational wealth and continue to influence and implement things that are good for us, that's the problem. And so I'm glad that these billboards are being thrown up, because what it's saying is our money's just as green as everyone else's. And the disparity between what we're putting out and what we're receiving back can't continue to happen. We're not going to continue to accept what we put out. Essentially, I mean, it's now you're saying trillions and billions, so it doesn't seem like whatever, but it's dang near slave labor. Like it's kind of like, that's kind of the level it's at. And you're like, well, that doesn't make sense for $1 billion. Yeah, but then it's relative, right? So it's relative. Like I said, it's like we work in 2 weeks and getting $1 when your normal check is $3,400. You're not going to take that, right? There'd be problems. And so that's what we're saying. And I like this. And I also feel that we should get behind each other, and we should be supportive of people that are placing us in positions to call out some injustices and some of the things that have been going on, because really no one's asking for a leg up or like a handout. It's, we want things to be equal, right? Or fair across the board, just across the board. I think that's, Yeah,
100%. There was another, so that billboard was in San Francisco, and the other one they put was in Los Angeles, and the billboard was designed similar, but this one really taps into, and it calls out the lack of Latino representation in film. This is like a whole nother podcast we actually hit on as well. But the picture shows the contrast between ticket sales to Latinos. So Latinos represent about 29% of ticket sales. But when you look at Latino movie leads, only 5%, and only 3% of the directors are Latinos. So very interesting. Love that they did this, again, shedding, highlighting, issues that are going on in our community in a creative way, right? And I think, something I want to hit on is, you got these companies that, for Hispanic Heritage Month, they get super, for Hispanic Heritage Month, they get super excited. They want to talk about how many Latinos they have in their companies. They want to talk about how diverse they are. They want to have budgets. They want to collaborate with you. They want to get you on their platform. And I'm speaking out of experience, all right? But the moment that month is over and you reach out that, you want to continue to collaborate, you want to continue, they ghost you, all right? They will ghost you. They won't say anything to you. So not only Hispanic Heritage Month, I'm sure a lot of Black creators experience it for Black History Month as well, where, it's only those 30 days, those 31 days that they want to, embrace us. They want to pull out their wallet. And then after that, see you later, Crazy.
No, it's true. And what's crazy is, I think what people need to realize is, the Black and brown, as we speak to it, but, this is American history, no more than anything else, right? Latinos fighting Cesar Chavez and things like that's American history, right? Black history, it shouldn't be confined to 30 days, right? 30, 31 days. This is American history. The same way you teach George Washington and Thomas Edison, you need to be teaching this. Yeah, Chris. Oh man, I started.
That name a trigger word.
You're trying to hit a nerve today, yeah, especially for us. First place he landed. Yeah, I'm not trying to. I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna let him.
We don't got to get into it, but man, it's insane. Like, just growing up, what we learned about him, and like the light that he was shed in with. Anyway, yeah. So dope. Again, the name of this group is called Aquí, the Accountability Movement. So shout out to them for creating these billboards. I love to see it. Love to see that they did it in California, where, let's be honest, most of the Latinos in California are majority Mexican. So it's dope to see, them kind of getting light out there as well. But yes, another episode to Wealth Wednesday. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share this with somebody else out there. It would truly mean the world to us. You guys heard our goals at the beginning of the podcast. All right. We pretty much are doing this for y'all. Like, we are doing it for the community. We've always done it for the community, and we're going to continue to do that. Right. So share this with somebody out there that needs to hear this episode, and stay tuned for next week. We got another, of course, Wealth One Day coming out, and we also got an interview coming out next Friday as well. And looking forward to that. And with that being said, it's Survival Wealth Family. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.